What if the God who made this world isn't the true God? What if the being who shaped the mountains and the seas, who formed your body from dust, who demands worship and obedience, is actually a blind, arrogant impostor who doesn't even know that the real divinity exists far above him? What if you have a piece of the actual God trapped inside you right now? A divine spark imprisoned in flesh, kept asleep by cosmic rulers who feed on your ignorance? What if everything you were taught about creation, about salvation, about the nature of reality itself, is a lie designed to keep you in a prison you don't even know you're in? This was the explosive teaching of the Gnostics, and it was so dangerous that the Orthodox Church spent centuries hunting them down, burning their books, and erasing their very existence from history. They almost succeeded. Then, in 1945, a farmer in Egypt struck something with his shovel, a sealed clay jar buried in the sand near a town called Nag Hammadi. Inside were 13 leather-bound codices, ancient texts hidden for over 1,500 years to protect them from destruction. The Gnostic Gospels had returned. Today, we're going to open that jar. We're going to explore one of the most radical spiritual visions ever conceived. A cosmos ruled by a false god, patrolled by cosmic prison guards, and inhabited by human beings who are secretly divine but have forgotten what they are. This is Gnosticism, and this is consciousness cartography. To understand Gnosticism, we have to start above, far above, beyond the stars, beyond the planets, beyond anything the physical eye can see or the rational mind can grasp. The Gnostics called it the Pleroma, the fullness. The Pleroma is the true realm, the original reality. It is not a place exactly, but a state of absolute completion. Nothing is lacking. Nothing is broken. Everything exists in perfect luminous unity. At the center of the Pleroma, or rather, as its very source, is the true God. But this God is not like anything you've been taught. The Gnostics called this being the monad, or bythos, or the invisible spirit. It is so far beyond human conception that it cannot be named, it cannot be described. Any word you use limits it, and it is without limit. This God does not create the way a craftsman builds a table. It emanates, it overflows. Like a fountain that cannot help but pour forth water, the true God radiates divine beings simply by existing. These emanations are called aeons. They exist in pairs, masculine and feminine aspects united in perfect harmony. Each aeon reflects a different quality of the divine source: mind, truth, word, life, and many others, depending on which Gnostic text you read. Together, the aeons and the source form the Pleroma, the complete fullness of true divinity. This is where you came from. This is your real home, and you have forgotten it entirely. The Pleroma is perfect, but perfection, it turns out, is fragile. Among the aeons, there was one called Sophia. Her name means wisdom. She was among the youngest emanations, the furthest from the original source, and perhaps because of this, she was restless. Sophia wanted to know the unknowable Father directly. She wanted to create as the source creates, but she acted alone, without her divine partner, without the harmony that defines the Pleroma. Her desire was not evil, it was premature, unbalanced. And from this unbalanced act, something emerged, something malformed, something that should not exist. She had produced an offspring, but it was not luminous like the aeons. It was ignorant. It was blind. It was cast out of the Pleroma, veiled from the realms above, alone in the void below. And when Sophia saw what she had done, she wept. Part of her divine light, part of the Pleroma itself, had fallen with this malformed creation, trapped outside the fullness, lost in the darkness below. This malformed being would become the architect of everything you know, the maker of the physical world, the God who demands worship. The Gnostics called him the Demiurge. The Demiurge floated in the void, alone, confused, cut off from everything above. He could not see the Pleroma. He did not know the true God existed. He did not understand that he himself was merely a broken emanation of something infinitely greater. He looked around and saw only emptiness, and in his ignorance, he made a declaration that would shape everything that followed. He said, "I am God, and there is no other beside me." He was wrong, catastrophically wrong, but he believed it absolutely. Different Gnostic texts give him different names. Yaldabaoth is the most common, a name that may mean child of chaos or begetter of the heavens. Some texts describe him as a lion-headed serpent, powerful, bestial, blind. Others portray him as simply ignorant, a craftsman who builds without understanding what he's doing. But all the texts agree on this. The Demiurge is not the true God. He is a false god, and the world he creates is a false world. Using the residue of Sophia's fallen light, the divine spark that had descended with his malformed birth, the Demiurge began to create. He modeled his creation on patterns he could dimly perceive, like a man assembling a puzzle in the dark. The result was the physical universe, the cosmos of matter, time, and death. He made the earth. He made the heavens. He made the stars and the planets, arranging them in spheres around his creation, and for each sphere he made a ruler. These are the Archons. The word Archon means ruler or authority in Greek. The Gnostics saw them everywhere. In the planets, yes, but also in the systems of the world. Governments, religions, social structures. Anything that claims authority over you, anything that demands obedience without offering liberation. This is the fingerprint of the Archons. There are usually 7 of them, corresponding to the 7 classical planets. Each one guards a sphere between Earth and the higher realms. Together with the Demiurge, they form a cosmic prison system. Their job is to keep you here, to keep you asleep, to make sure you never remember what you truly are, and never escape. The Demiurge looked upon his creation and was pleased. The earth, the heavens, the Archons serving him. It was good, but it was missing something. He wanted worshippers. He wanted beings who would look upon him and recognize him as God. So he created humanity. Using the dust of his material world, the Demiurge formed Adam, the first human. But the body was lifeless. It lay on the ground, inert. The Demiurge breathed into it, trying to animate it, but nothing happened. His breath alone was not enough. Here the story takes a turn. The powers above, Sophia, or in some texts other aeons, saw an opportunity. They tricked the Demiurge. They convinced him to breathe more of himself into Adam, to give everything he had. And when he did, something unexpected happened. The divine light that the Demiurge had unknowingly carried, the spark of Sophia that had fallen with his birth, passed into Adam. The human came alive, but more than alive. Adam was now carrying a piece of the true Pleroma inside him. The Demiurge had accidentally given humanity the one thing that could undo his entire prison. When Adam opened his eyes, he saw more clearly than the Demiurge himself. For a moment, he perceived the realms above. He recognized that Yaldabaoth was not the true God. He knew. The Demiurge was terrified. What had he done? This creature he had made was more luminous than he was. So he did what frightened rulers always do. He suppressed. He divided. He cast Adam into deeper matter, deeper sleep, deeper forgetting. He split Adam into 2, male and female, dividing and weakening the light. He placed them in the Garden of Eden, which was not paradise but prison, a controlled environment where he could watch them, limit them, and ensure they never awakened again. And he gave them one rule: do not eat from the tree of knowledge. Think about that. The being who calls himself God forbids humanity from gaining knowledge. In the Gnostic reading, this is not a test of obedience. It is the Demiurge protecting his prison. Knowledge, Gnosis, is the one thing that can set you free. Of course he forbids it. Then the serpent arrived. In Orthodox Christianity, the serpent is Satan, the tempter, the villain. But in Gnostic texts, the serpent is something else entirely. Some Gnostics saw the serpent as a messenger from the true realms above, Sophia herself, perhaps, or an emissary of the real God, slipping into the prison to offer humanity the key to escape. The serpent said, "Eat from the tree. Your eyes will be opened. You will be like gods, knowing good and evil." And the serpent was telling the truth. The Demiurge was lying. Adam and Eve ate. Their eyes were opened. they glimpsed their true nature. And the Demiurge, furious and afraid, cast them out of Eden, cursing them with suffering, with labor, with death. Not as punishment for sin, but as punishment for beginning to wake up. This is the Gnostic reversal. Everything you thought you knew is inverted. The God of Genesis is the villain. The serpent is the liberator. The fall is actually the first step toward salvation. But the awakening was incomplete. The curse worked. Humanity multiplied across the earth, the divine sparks dividing further with each generation, forgetting more with each lifetime. The Archons developed systems to keep people asleep, religions that worshipped the Demiurge, philosophies that denied the spirit, cultures that fixated on matter, desire, fear, and endless distraction. This is where you find yourself now, a divine spark trapped in flesh, a fragment of the Pleroma imprisoned in a body made by a false god, living in a world designed to make you forget, ruled by powers that feed on your ignorance. But there is a way out. The Gnostics called it Gnosis. Gnosis is not belief. It is not faith. It is not accepting doctrines or following rules. Gnosis is direct experiential knowledge of your true nature. It is not being told you are divine. It is knowing you are divine. With the same certainty, you know you exist. When Gnosis strikes, everything changes. You recognize that your body is a costume, not your identity. You see that the world is a stage, not your home. You remember, not intellectually, but viscerally, that you came from somewhere else, somewhere luminous, and that you can return. The Gnostics believed this knowledge could come in several ways. Some received Gnosis through secret teachings, hidden gospels, whispered instructions, texts like the ones buried at Nag Hammadi. These writings contained maps of the cosmos, names of the Archons, passwords for the Ascent. Knowledge that the Orthodox Church tried to destroy. Some received Gnosis through direct mystical experience, visions, revelations, moments where the veil thinned and the Pleroma became visible. Meditation, ritual, and sacrament could prepare the soul for this breakthrough. And some received Gnosis through a divine messenger. In Christian Gnosticism, this messenger was Christ, but the Gnostic Christ is not the Christ of the Orthodox Church. He did not come to die for your sins. Sin, in the Gnostic view, is not the problem. Ignorance is the problem. You are not guilty. You are asleep. Christ came to wake you up. He descended from the Pleroma, passing through the spheres of the Archons in disguise. He took on the appearance of a human body, though many Gnostics believed he was never truly material. He was light wearing a costume of flesh, and he taught, not publicly, not to the masses, but secretly to those ready to hear. The Gospel of Thomas records his sayings without narrative, without miracles, just Gnosis, concentrated and direct. If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. The kingdom of heaven is not coming in the future. It is spread upon the earth, and people do not see it. The resurrection is not of the body at the end of time. It is awakening now, while you still breathe. When Christ was crucified, if he was crucified at all, it was the costume that died. The light returned to its source, having delivered the message. The Archons thought they had won. They had only released him, and the message remained for those with ears to hear. So what happens when you awaken? What happens when you die with Gnosis burning in your heart? This is where the Gnostic map becomes very specific. At death, the soul begins to rise. It leaves the body behind, that prison of flesh, and ascends toward the Pleroma. But the journey is not automatic. Between Earth and the true realms lie the spheres of the Archons, the 7 planetary heavens, each one guarded by a hostile ruler. As you approach each sphere, the Archon challenges you. Who are you? Where do you come from? Where are you going? By what authority do you pass? Without Gnosis, you have no answers. The Archon seizes you, strips you of your light, and hurls you back down into matter. You forget everything. You are reborn into another body, another life, another round of imprisonment. The cycle continues, but with Gnosis, you know the answers. You say to the Archon, I know who you are. I know your name. I know you are not the true God, but a servant of the blind Demiurge. I am not of your realm. I am a spark of the eternal light, and I am going home. You have no power over me. Let me pass, and the Archon must release you. Different Gnostic texts provide different passwords, different names, different techniques for navigating this ascent. The Pistis Sophia maps the journey in elaborate detail. Other texts offer simpler formulas. But the principle is always the same. Knowledge is power. Gnosis is the key that unlocks every gate. When you pass the final Archon, when you rise above the seventh sphere, you approach the boundary of the Pleroma. The false cosmos falls away below you. The light above grows unbearably bright, and you remember everything. You remember who you truly are. You remember the fullness from which you came. You remember Sophia's fall, the Demiurge's error, the long sleep of incarnation. You see it all as if waking from a dream, vivid while it lasted, but insubstantial, unreal. You reunite with the source. The spark returns to the fire. The drop returns to the ocean. You are home. This is Gnostic salvation. Not forgiveness for sins, not resurrection of the body, not eternal life in a perfected earth. Complete liberation from the material cosmos altogether. Escape from the prison, return to the Pleroma. The Demiurge continues his reign over those still sleeping. The Archons continue their patrols. The earth continues its cycles of birth and death and forgetting. But you are free, forever. The Orthodox Church could not allow this teaching to stand. Think about what Gnosticism implies. If the Creator God is a fraud, the entire foundation of religious authority collapses. If salvation comes through direct knowledge rather than through priests and sacraments, the Church becomes unnecessary. If Christ came to awaken rather than to redeem, the doctrine of atonement falls apart. Gnosticism was not just heresy, it was an existential threat to institutional religion. The Church Fathers attacked with ferocity. Irenaeus wrote against heresies in the 2nd century, mocking Gnostic cosmology as absurd myth. Tertullian condemned them. Hippolytus catalogued their beliefs in order to refute them. When Christianity became the official religion of Rome, the full power of the state joined the persecution. Gnostic teachers were exiled, Gnostic communities were scattered, and Gnostic texts were burned, systematically, thoroughly, across centuries. By the 4th century, organized Gnosticism was essentially dead in the Roman world. The victory seemed complete. But someone hid those texts at Nag Hammadi. Someone sealed them in a jar and buried them in the Egyptian sand, preserving them for 1,500 years until a farmer's shovel struck clay and the lost Gospels returned to the world. We can read them now. We can hear the Gnostic voice directly, not filtered through the attacks of its enemies. And we can ask, what if they were right? I'm not asking you to believe in Yaldabaoth, the lion-headed serpent. I'm not asking you to accept that 7 Archons patrol the planetary spheres waiting to intercept your soul. Mythology is not meant to be believed literally. It is meant to point at something that cannot be said directly. So what is Gnosticism pointing at? Perhaps that something in you is not from here, that your deepest sense of self did not originate in this body, this family, this culture, this world, that you are in some essential way a stranger, temporarily inhabiting a form that will die, participating in systems that demand your energy and attention, but never quite at home. Have you felt this? The vague sense that you're forgetting something important? The suspicion that the world as presented to you is not the whole story? The longing for something you cannot name but somehow remember? The Gnostics would say, that is the spark. That is your divine origin calling you home. That is Gnosis beginning to dawn. And what about the Demiurge? Perhaps he is not a literal lion-headed deity, but a symbol for any system that presents itself as ultimate when it is not. Any authority that demands worship while keeping you small. Any voice, internal or external, that says, this is all there is. Do not question. Do not look higher. The Archons? Perhaps they are the forces that keep you asleep. The distractions, the fears, the endless cycles of craving and aversion that consume your attention and prevent you from asking the deeper questions. Perhaps they are the internalized authorities, the voices that say you are not worthy, you are not capable, you should not seek what you're seeking. Gnosis, then, is not memorizing passwords for a post-mortem journey. It is waking up now, recognizing what is false, remembering what is true, knowing, not believing, that you are more than you have been told. The Gnostics were hunted for this. Their books were burned. Their teachers were killed. For almost 2,000 years, we knew them only through the words of their enemies. But they preserved their truth in the sand. And now we have it again. What you do with it is up to you. You can dismiss it as ancient mythology, outdated and irrelevant. You can file it away as interesting history. You can return to sleep, or you can let it work on you. You can ask yourself, what do I know, not just believe? What in me did not originate here? What authorities have I accepted without questioning? What would it mean to wake up? The Gnostics would say that even hearing this teaching is not accidental. The spark recognizes its own. Something in you responded because something in you remembers. You have always known you were more than this. The only question is whether you will do anything about it. The Pleroma is not far away. It is not at the end of a long journey through hostile spheres. It is here, now. Covered over by forgetting, yes. Obscured by the Demiurge's creation, yes. But never truly absent. You are already made of light. You have simply forgotten. Gnosis is remembering. If you want to continue exploring the great maps of consciousness, the traditions that tried to explain what we are, where we came from, and how to wake up, subscribe to Consciousness Cartography. Next, we'll explore Hermeticism, the Egyptian-Greek tradition built on one phrase that changes everything. As above, so below. We'll discover Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great sage. We'll explore the Emerald Tablet and the 7 Hermetic principles that influenced everything from alchemy to modern magic. The map of the invisible landscape is vast, and we're just getting started. I'll see you in the next video.